Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Well, I wasn't with you last week over the Christmas holiday, and I won't be with you tomorrow since it's New Year's Day. I'll do my very best to be back with you on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of this week. I do have some really critical business I have to take care of that may interfere with Friday's production, but I'll do my best because I don't want to take too much of a break in our response and refutation to Lance Conley's book, Hope Resurrected. Okay? Today is the last day of 2019, getting ready to turn a decade. And you know, today's my birthday. And it's difficult. I know you can probably relate to this. It's difficult for me to imagine that I turned 70 years old today. I'm an old man. I don't feel like an old man. In reality, I am having the time of my life. Now, somebody asked me just the other day, they said, hey, what's it like to feel or to be retired? And I said, retired? I have no earthly idea what you're talking about. I am actually working harder than I have ever worked in my life, but I am having the time of my life. It is such a thrill, so much fun to be able to come on here and to share God's Word with you. Here on YouTube and Facebook on a 4 and 5 day basis every single week almost, to be able to study, to research, to write on God's Word, first of all, for me to better understand it. To me, the fantastic reality of being able to spend my time researching and writing to produce books to help you begins its benefit to me, that I get to study, I get to learn, I get to better understand the heart and the mind, the will of God better, so that then I can share that with you. And listen, I want to say how much I appreciate those of you who support our ministry financially. We are completely and totally dependent upon two things. Number one, your tax-free donations and gifts to our ministry. And secondly, on book sales. It just means so much to us that so many of you support us on a regular basis. As I've shared with you, we really do need your help. All right? We honestly do need your help. On a monthly basis, one-time gifts. I appreciate the fact that some of you have stepped up and sent us one-time gifts here at the end of the year. That's so helpful. But we also need an increase of monthly support. As you well know, if you watch this, if you watch my videos often, you know that I don't make appeals for financial help very often. I don't like to do that. But you know what? Guess what? I have bills to pay too, just like you do. And so not only will this be my last appeal this year, but, I only come to you to ask for financial help when I genuinely need financial help. So please give that very careful consideration. Today I'm only going to get into Matthew 24:29 and following just a little bit more to lay the groundwork, to establish the premises, so to speak, to lay out in front of us what the issues really are in these critical verses of the Olivet Discourse. Jesus has just spoken about the abomination of desolation that the apostles would see, the ensuing great tribulation, and then has said immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars of heaven and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. We have one of two choices here. And that is, we can take this language in a woodenly literalistic manner, meaning that Jesus was predicting the passing of literal, physical, material creation. Now, that's the view of so many futurists. A little bit of a caveat to that, and that is, many in the amillennial world, many in the postmillennial world, recognize this is not literal language. It's metaphoric, apocalyptic, figurative language. More on that in a moment. But now, among many former preterists, this language is taken to predict the end of material creation, the, quote, passing of physical heaven and earth, unquote. Now, if it is true, let's just make this as simple as possible. If it is true that Matthew 24, 29 to 31 speaks of the passing of literal, physical, material heaven and earth, their destruction, their, quote, passing away, and we'll examine the Greek on that later. So if these verses describe the end of time and the end of human history, the end of the current age, the destruction of heaven and earth, if that's what these verses are about, then very clearly it hasn't happened. And then we're confronted with other problems. Number one, Jesus said all of those things would occur in that generation. Matthew 24:34. He was therefore deluded or false, simply wrong, or he was a false prophet. Now, obviously, there are those who call themselves former preterists now, who claim that this generation has no reference to time at all. We'll be examining that in depth. I will show you how incredibly specious and wrong that is. So, if Jesus was right when he said all of those things would happen in his generation within a 40-year period of time, give or take a few years, then we are confronted with an incredibly difficult challenge. Because pretty clearly, the end of material creation did not happen. Heaven and earth did not pass away. Physical heaven and earth did not pass away in the first century generation. However, if in fact that language, the sun being darkened, the moon being turned to blood, the stars of heaven and the powers of the heavens being shaken, if that is metaphoric language, which was never intended to be taken literally, but rather is highly stylized, dramatic language to describe the passing of a political, socioeconomic entity, then guess what? It could and did find fulfillment in the first century with the fall of Jerusalem and the end of the Old Covenant age. Little sidebar here. It's absolutely stunning to me that former preterists, led by Sam Frost, are now claiming there was no such thing as a Mosaic age. There's no such thing as the Christian age. Unbelievable. I mean, this may be the first time in history that this claim is being made, and it's being made by former preterists who claim that they hold to the traditional historical view of the church, and yet they're making claims that the historical church has never made, i.e., no such thing as a Mosaic age, no such thing as the Christian age. Wow. Unbelievable. Well, all of that aside, so if this language of Matthew chapter 24, 29 and following is metaphoric, hyperbolic, exaggerated, non-literal language I won't say if, when we demonstrate that that language truly was never intended to be taken literally, then guess what? 2/3 of the futurist view of eschatology melt away. They're gone. They're false. Because when we demonstrate that the language of the sun being darkened, the heaven and earth passing away, in other words, de-creation language, when we demonstrate that that language was never intended to be taken literally, but applied to the end of a kingdom, the end of a nation, the end of a people as a socioeconomic, political, etc. entity, when we demonstrate that, then it destroys any literalistic interpretation of these verses. Now, for the month of January, all right, we just finished a really, really special 3-book special that many of you took advantage of, and we truly, truly appreciate that. Okay? Since we're going to be dealing with the language of the passing of heaven and earth, certainly here in January, I want to offer another fantastic 3-book special. Number 1, have heaven and earth passed away. This is a critical study of Matthew 5:17 and 18. The elements shall melt with fervent heat. Well, you know, Peter said the earth and the elements that are therein shall be burned up or discovered, whichever translation you prefer on that. So, 2 Peter chapter 3, the elements shall melt with fervent heat, which contains one of the most extensive discussions and examinations of the language of heaven and earth passing away that you're going to find anywhere. And thirdly, like Father, like Son, on clouds of glory. This book likewise, it not only discusses in depth the decreation language of heaven and earth passing away, but it discusses in depth the nature of the coming of the Lord. Is Jesus supposed to come as a 5'5" Jewish man riding a cumulus cloud out of heaven in a literal physical body at the end of the current age? Well, this book discusses that in depth. If you were to order these 3 books separately, they would cost you almost $61. Okay? For January, and we'll see about extending it to February, depending upon the response. All right? For the month of January 2019, I cannot do this for overseas orders, $40 postpaid, delivered to your door. All right? Thank you so much for your response to the previous 3-book special. Here's another absolutely fantastic 3-book special. There will be a banner up on my websites that you can just go to and click and make that purchase. Okay, thank you so much. Listen, you have a really, really fantastic beginning. Happy New Year to you. Lord willing, I'll be back with you on Wednesday. I will see you then.